What up? What up?
There
What up?
she
What up? What
is.
up? What up? What up? What up? What's good? What's good?
Hey, how you
What's
doing?
up, Carmen?
What
Are
up,
you
kids?
are you in a photo booth?
Nah, I'm in my apartment.
I like it. Nice
Wait, let me grab
sheets.
my chair.
Oh, we had a
Looks like
walk
a
off already. It's our first walk off.
Looks almost like a shower curtain.
I like the chevrons. Those are chevrons.
We'll get to the bottom of this. Ah, is that a plant?
No, it's a chair.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, there she is.
Ah,
Hey,
How's it there on the
What's
West
up?
Coast?
we're doing it. We're good. How's this for sound? You okay? You need me up or
Yep.
down?
I think you're good. How's
Sound
it over
good.
there, Jimmy?
we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Solid. Solid.
Yeah.
How are things going over there on the West Coast?
You know, they ain't letting us out, so I feel safe here.
Is everything still
It's
closed
weird
there?
because like things are so locked down still over California, which is probably for the wiser. But here in Florida, it's like it's
Yeah,
it's
they don't
more
give a
chaotic
fuck.
than it was before the coronavirus.
Yeah. It's crazy as shit. Yeah. It's I'm glad I'm not there right now, to be honest with you. That shit would just make me so anxious just because I got old people over there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's
So
old people.
many old people,
Yeah.
and also they it's like, as far as Floridians are concerned, the coronavirus is over. There's no, that's a thing that already happened, and
It's in
it's
the
done
past,
with.
you know? Stop living in the past, man. It's over. It's done with.
Yeah.
Everyone's
were
listening
And
to
if you
that
wear-
Future song, "Mask Off." Everyone's
Yeah.
just blasting that.
Yep.
It's just like
That's
we
their
we've been
anthem.
inside for 2 months and that was enough. So, you know, I get it.
hmm
It feels
I
done.
did my
So I think
time.
that's good enough. It feels done. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
that's what you
We
should
got
go
it.
on.
We got a good
Yeah.
feel of it. We understand it.
Yeah, we got everybody
and
shaved their
now-
heads. We're done. Like I'm good. I need to go get somebody to cut my hair now. It's insane. It's
Did you think
insane.
about shaving your head?
No, I'm not like boring crazy. You know what I mean? Like it's like at this point it's just hacky. You know?
Yeah, it's a real hack move to shave your head during the coronavirus.
Yeah, it's either they're shaving their head or they're like. It's like I don't understand why here's the thing is if anybody's cutting their hair because the person that they're quarantined with is like not fucking you because they're like, oh, your hair. It's not your hair, it's you. Like they're realizing that they don't like you as a person from spending so much time with you. So I don't think it's your hair, man. I think maybe work on your fucking personality.
I think there's been more relationship casualties during the coronavirus than actual human casualties, it seems like.
I mean, I don't know. I think some people are really like, oh man, I do like this bitch. Like, I think some people are really getting into it. And then some people are just, I mean, you spend this much time. It's the same thing like if you ever went on the road with somebody or you like, you know, backpacked in Europe with somebody. This is like so much time together that.
Yeah, I think that's a romantic way to look at it. There's probably going to be, this is going to be like, everyone makes fun of the boomers, but this is like the next boomer generation, you know, after this is going to be like just like millions and millions of babies born within 9 months from now.
Yes. Yeah. But I gotta have the Corona kids, you know?
Yeah. And then,
Ramon Morales.
Like, the bond of starting a relationship in such a traumatic era, you know, is going to really tie people together. Like our grandparents who all lived through the Great Depression. I mean, none of those people are getting divorced. They just like were bonded together, like surviving.
So this is like a really good thing that's happening to us. It's bringing back to our core family values. You know what I mean? Where marriage mattered, and I think that's a really important thing that we need.
Yes, it is a good thing. This is a good thing that happened. Let's all agree on that.
So good. Man, I hope your listeners really get satire. Otherwise, man, do we sound like fucking monsters?
Yeah,
sarcasm for the dumb ones. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, God gave us the coronavirus to save marriage. That's what happened.
Yes, the man-made institution. God was in on it, you know, and he's throwing men a solid, and I appreciate that.
So, Carmen, what have you been doing with your spare time now that you have to be locked in for the past 2 or 3 months?
Answering that question, mainly for the most part, I think everybody keeps asking me the same thing, and ultimately it comes down to the same shit you're doing, motherfucker, nothing. I mean, I'm quarantined in Los Angeles solo, so, it's really just anything. I'm learning how to illustrate, kind of like learning how to draw digitally, which is fun. I pretend I know how to play guitar, but really I just stare at it and go, not today, bitch. And like everybody else, I've been cooking a lot. I got an air fryer that I used for the first time and didn't document it and put it on all the social media. So I feel like I'm failing everyone. Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm failing everyone because I didn't.
There needs to be a whole TikTok
How
series.
are the people gonna know?
I know. Well, I thought the pool might have been flooded already, if I'm being honest with you. But maybe they'd never seen my chicken wings. Maybe they'd never seen my actually crispy chicken wings. So
I see what you're doing. What you're doing is you want to perfect it, so that way when you launch it to the masses,
it's
you're
food
already
porn or
an
nothing.
expert.
That's the only thing. I'm only high quality 5-star food pornography.
It's funny. You ever see on Facebook, like someone posts something and they're like very proud of it and they describe what it is and everything, and it just looks like complete garbage.
Yes.
The lighting's all weird.
It's dark.
Yeah.
And it just looks terrible.
You can tell there's a lot of pets in the area, so there's probably dander in and around the food.
Oh, just a
man, I'd
dusty
take some dog dander over the Rona though, for sure. But it's definitely not making your dish look any. When I can see the cat hair on the dish, it really kind of takes away from its spectacular culinary glory.
The picture is lit just by a television, you just get that television blue glow. That's like,
it's like, we get it. It's 2 a.m. You're not asleep.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Yeah.
It's just like, man, this guy's lonely.
Well, a lot of it is lonely. A lot of it is lonely.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is I haven't, I get lonely sometimes, but I lived on the road for 6 years, so I've been alone a long time. And so this isn't that strange to me. So it's like, I already worked my shit out with me so I can be quarantined with myself, because I already was. And that's kind of my whole thing is like, if people are quarantined by themselves and they're going nuts, here's a fun suggestion is, do an impression of somebody you wouldn't mind being cooped up with, pretend, work on those method acting skills and act like a person you wouldn't mind being cooped up with, because it's obviously not you, or else you wouldn't be going nuts. You know what I mean? Work on you. Either work on you or pretend to be somebody cooler than you are.
Do you do that, Carmen? Will you talk to like imaginary friends?
I have been in a lot of arguments with stuffed animals recently, but that's just because I'm gonna fucking tell them. It's because they look at me passive aggressively when they don't get to pick what we're watching on TV, but they don't fucking speak up. So then I'm the asshole that has to pick everything they're watching. It's like, okay, look, I get it, Teddy, but like maybe say something because I can't read your thoughts. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I can't hear what's in your head. You have to fucking say that shit so mama knows what the fuck's going on. You gotta let a bitch in. You can't just be
communication
mad at me.
It's a two-way street.
Midwest ass teddy bear fucking not letting me know what the fuck's up. Like, fuck you, Rick and Morty stuffed animals. Fuck you.
You don't need a passive aggressive teddy bear, that's for sure.
We worked it out. Like, he had some pretty good points. Like, maybe I wasn't considering his feelings and stuff. So it's like,
I was gonna say, it seems like very
that's
one-sided.
growth. That's growth.
We try.
I had so I lived alone for 4 years, and I had an entire family of Black people that lived with me. I may have gotten it from Kerr, but it was Jamal, Ja Frank, and Ja Quinn. I just remember those three, and I would literally have conversations with them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, bah. But yeah, it's good to have imaginary friends. I think that's what saved Tom Hanks in that one movie.
Speaking of Tom Hanks, I actually have a volleyball that is the Wilson, and it's got a handprint on it. I got years ago. And I just happen to have it in my garage, but I've been alone for the past 2 months, and it's actually really come in handy.
You've been working it out with the volleyball, with the Voight. Just you and the Voight working shit out.
Yeah. Or you just been fucking the volleyball.
Oh yeah. Or did you cut a hole in it?
I haven't thought about that, but that might be the next move. I think. Well, the thing is, I'm still trying to romance, get into the. I'm in the friend zone right now, and I'm trying to get out of the friend zone. I don't want to be too aggressive,
Right. Well, yeah, you got to get consent from the ball, bro. You can't just be. You can't just be
Mhm.
raw dogging a void without its consent.
No way. No way, Jose. That's for sure.
You don't want to get ball tooed at the end of this.
Mm-mm.
No, not me.
Ball too. Yeah, balls deep.
So the you're a doorman. What's the pronoun for a female doorman? What I don't understand.
I
Door
don't
person,
understand.
I guess.
You're a door person at the Comedy Store.
I
but
mean,
the Comedy
everybody
Store,
just still calls it a door guy because it's called the door guy program. But yeah, door
all right, so you're a
person.
door guy at the Comedy Store, and the Comedy Store's been closed now for 2 months or a little over 2 months. How
Yeah,
long?
they closed in mid-March, I think. They closed.
Any word on when the reopening? I know Adam Egget was just on Rogan, and they're talking about that, and
I don't know.
you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it all depends on what the state of what the city of Los Angeles says, because we're still like shelter in place is still in
Mhm.
effect. So I think it just depends on what's going to happen. Like they don't have any. They're not going to open early. We're not going to pull a Florida here, just so you know. It's just not going to happen. So
You guys are just gonna watch us slowly die and then determine
yes.
when to
And
open.
then go, okay, yeah. So no, don't do that.
But they don't
Solid.
realize that Florida, over here in Florida, we have enzymes in our stomach like dogs, so we could just like survive the worst shit.
Mhm.
So it's not necessarily.
I mean, that's not true. You guys are still dying. I don't know if you've looked at the
Yeah,
actual
no.
numbers.
Oh,
of
they're
people.
we're
yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
We're dying.
Many dead people.
we, there's a lot of sand over here, so we're all burying our heads in it. That's what's
Nice.
We have
There's
a
bunch
friend.
of dead ostriches everywhere. I don't know what's going
going
on.
on. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we have a
what-
friend Scott who works like his job is to pick up people that have died, and he said he's been super busy lately.
Oh,
So
nice.
people are dying in
It's
Florida.
good to see that some businesses are still thriving. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Taking this opportunity to really, you know what I mean, like work on your brand and really kind of just
Yeah.
go out there and get it. I admire the hustle. I admire
We
the
all need to
hustle.
get into the funeral business. What are we doing?
That is a business that never goes down. It is a
No.
foolproof business.
So what are
It is.
what are your opinions, or what are your thoughts on stand-up comedy and the future of stand-up, or the present of stand-up? What do you
I
Where do you
think
line on
we're in a really weird spot where there's some places that are opening and there's you know I don't know. It's all completely uncertain. I am definitely not an expert. So I've just been going by what like doctors say. Like I have a bunch of friends in the medical field that are working in like high concentrated areas and stuff. So I just go by what they say, and they say it's going to be a minute. So I'm probably just going to wait a minute and see what happens. Like I'm not trying to, as much as narcissistic as stand-up comedy is, like I still that was like a weird, like lame realization that this whole entire situation has made me come to is I actually don't hate people as much as most comedians do. Large groups of them obviously suck, but like I don't want everybody to die. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
always been the kind
That's
of
so
dynamic
sweet.
between comedian and audience is like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Just so ultimately I'm not, I can't, I'll wait. I know I miss it. I'm fuck, you know what I mean? And that's why I've been doing like online shows and shit just to kind of get some methadone for my for my heroin addiction. But it's like, I'm gonna wait
Yeah.
because the greater good that seems like way more arrogant to be like, but I want to say my fucking dick jokes. Let me out.
Right,
Like
right.
that just
Yeah.
how
There
much
is
of a
something
fucking
to that.
petulant child like the comedians have to be where it's like, all right, but we're talking about the health of the greater good. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You know?
Yeah,
So,
there is something to that. They're at one of the local venues here. There's some comedians that want to open up shows there. They're like, come on, I know you only have 20-person limit, but can we just do a show? And at
Yeah.
that point, it's like, okay, the business is only allowed 20 people in. So technically a comedy show is a draw for the business.
Yeah.
The business isn't benefiting from it. The only thing that's benefiting is egos and
That's what I'm saying. It's like how much like do you really love it do you love it like because I dedicated my whole life to it. I've given up having a family for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm committed as fuck. Like, almost all of my conversations end up about stand-up comedy. I'm a very boring person outside of stand-up, you know, and because it's like
You draw digitally. That's interesting.
I collage. I do some other stuff. I sing. I was in a band.
You got an air fryer.
Like, I've been doing comedy long enough where it's part of my personality, and so it's like, I love it as much as any other fucking junkie loves the thing that they love the most. And like, but I still that just feels gross in a way where I'm saying that what I want to do is more important than the health of other people. Like, that just feels wrong to say, you know? But then again, some people are in economic places as comedians where they fucking need to work. And I get that too. If you're in a position where it's like you're willing to risk your health and the health of people around you for that, like, then you fucking do it. Like, I ain't trying to judge nobody either. You know what I mean? It's up to you. It just makes me uncomfortable, you know? And so I'm just going to do my silly little online shows until, you know, it feels a little bit safer, or at least we have some more information. Like, that's the other thing too, is like the uncertainty is just bizarre. So I'd rather have some kind of fucking plan or any kind of useful information that would be.
And you're one of the early adopters as far as the online shows. I remember, like, pretty much right out the gate, you were doing shows where you're selling tickets and things that were online.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that? How did you come up with that so quickly? I feel like you know, a lot of people were trying to scramble and figure things out. I feel like a week after the shutdown, you were already doing shows and booking them all and stuff.
It was definitely not a week. It was probably like 3 weeks or something like that, just because I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't get back to Los Angeles until like mid-March anyways. Like, I was still on a month-long tour at the time. So, and then I did, I think the real, and she probably won't ever get the credit for it, but I think the real pioneer of it was like Maria Bamford, Jackie Cation. There was like these people that were already doing them. Like, Maria wanted to help, so she was like, "Oh, I'll do an online show, and then I'll give part of the money to the Downtown Women's Shelter to help them during this too." So she was like one of the early, like, because they just wanted to work on their hours. They were just like, I still have to talk it out and practice. So, and I was kind of like skeptical about the whole thing until I did like a set on Jackie Cation runs her hours, so she let me do a set on it, and I was like, oh, it was just like one of those classic instances where something is definitely not as bad as you made it out in your head, you know?
Yep.
So I did that, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to do this, and so I was just gonna do one. I was just gonna be like, fuck it, I'll see what happens. And then the reason, and this is the other like lame thing that I learned, is like, the real reason I'm still doing them is I had so many people hit me up afterwards that were just like, fuck, I needed a distraction, dude. And you know, you can only watch so much shit on Netflix, and it was just kind of like more of a social interaction kind of
it's like a weird connection
experience.
too, especially as just the viewer. I mean, I've watched some comedy things or even music where it's like, you just, it's like it is like a live event in a way, because you're able to type in the comments, or you're able to watch. They can see you can see them, and it's almost,
and it's actually way more interactive than if you're at a live comedy show, because if, like, I can hear, like, it would be almost like if I was doing stand-up but still could hear what they were saying at the table and chime in, you know what I mean? So it's like, not to mention it's way more intimate because I can see in your fucking homes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can see in your house. Like, you will have to be there is a level of vulnerability that the audience member has to bring as well. And and I always think it's bizarre when people try to compare it to live stand-up. Like, there isn't anything that will ever be like live stand-up comedy. So I am confident in that that's never going to go away. Like, I was deemed inessential by the US government, but as far as people go, it's, you may not need me, but you want me, you know? So I have that going for me. So it's like, stand-up is never going to go anywhere. But this is a way for you to be able to like think creatively and to come up with new ideas, and a way for you to focus your energy on something that's other than you know, just drowning in fear and uncertainty, you know? So it's just like, any way that I can provide a little bit of relief or a little bit of distraction in a time where everybody just feels fucking defeated and like is angry, and not to mention everything else that's going on. Like, it's just a fucking
Yeah.
my approach is the musicians on the Titanic ship. Like, even if it's sinking and I know that, I'm gonna go, oh, well, you guys, who here's married? You know what I mean? Like, I'm still gonna do my job until this fucking ship sinks.
And 20 years from now, people are going to remember the comedians or the musicians that kept them feeling comfortable and safe during this time, the distractions that they had. Because I remember, like, when I got furloughed, and like within the first week, like a electronic artist I liked did an Instagram live, and it was this intimate thing where he was jamming out and answering questions.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like this crazy thing. It's like, this guy that I like his music, he's like answering my questions, and there's this weird interactive thing. I feel like I'm not going to forget that. These things are meaningful to people, and I think that these live shows, even though they won't ever replace live comedy in a room full of people, it's turning into its own thing that could even continue on past when everyone is able to do live shows, but it will just be its own separate thing.
Some things, some online stuff is going to definitely stay once this is over, just because all this has also done is it's taken the laziest way that you can be a comedian, which is you just go to open mics or you just do this shitty show that your friend books at a bar, So now it's like, if you want to be creative, if you want to make people laugh, you have to actually be creative and not just go to a dive bar and tell people about your day, So, which is all shit that if you were serious about being a comedian, you would have had to think about anyways. Like, in these smaller scenes and shit, like the people that leave, a smaller town and go to a bigger city or end up out here, this in seeing people because the Los Angeles scene is so huge, like, it's everything from open mic to 1%er comedian, So, and the people that are take this shit seriously, like, they all do something besides just stand up, and this is like forcing people to have to do that because they want people. I mean, how are they going to make money off of you if you're not making anything? So like, when it comes down to it, like, everybody should have already had their version of, if they wanted to do a podcast, if they wanted to do a live stream show, if they wanted a fucking YouTube series of sketches, whatever the fuck it is that you're going to make, like, what's the thing you're going to make? Now, you don't really have an excuse. And the only people that are shitting on anything that's being created right now are the people who aren't doing anything. You know what I mean? They're the ones that are just sitting around, and it's like, and there's two different, and I feel pretty strongly about that too. Like, if you're super bummed out and you don't want to fucking do anything, I think that's totally okay. I think if you don't want to do fuck all and you're like, fuck you, it's hard enough for me to just get out of bed in the morning, do you, boo? Do you? But I also don't think that people shouldn't not be doing anything either if they want to. If you want to do, there's a difference between.
They shouldn't shit on people who feel like they want to do those things. Yeah,
I think the only way you could actually waste your time in being quarantined and not, like, if you are in an essential and not essential or whatever the fucking case may be, if you're at home and you ain't doing fuck all, the only way I think you would be wasting your time doing fuck all is if you're telling other people how they need to be spending their time. If you're there like, you shouldn't be doing this, or you shouldn't have to, and the people, it's like, if all you're going to do is bitch about it, then bitch, that's probably what you were doing before this. And so you probably weren't doing much anyways. So do you, boo-boo?
We've been doing this for the past few weeks on open mic on Wednesdays, right, Jimmy? Yeah. And like, it's like pulling fingernails to get anybody locally to do the show. We have people from New York and all over the country who are doing it, but for the local scene here, like, nobody wants to do the open mic for some reason. I don't get it.
Yeah,
there's like a stigma or something, or people. I don't know what it is, or people are afraid of being vulnerable online, or I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I think it's probably a variety of things. I think it's probably like, I mean, comics historically have always shitted on anything new. I mean, like, I can't remember all the resistance when, like, Dane Cook started doing the MySpace thing, and then, like, he fucking blew up with it, and then everybody was like, oh yeah, MySpace isn't bad. Like, people are gonna shit on it until it's effective, and that's the thing is, like, I'm trying to do it because I genuinely just want people to feel good, and like it is, like, Maria's raised, I think, almost like $17,000 for the downtown women's shelter doing a Zoom show. So it's like, yeah, like, there's a lot of cool things that are happening, and if you're only listening to the people shitting on it, then you're not looking at the rest of it. Like, You know what I mean? And I think it's totally okay if you don't want to do that. If you just want to do a podcast and
Yeah.
you don't want to perform on Zoom or don't want to do any of that. But a lot of those people who are shitting on it are also rich enough that they don't have to. They don't have to do anything but wait this out. And some people like need to do something in order to stay mentally healthy. And that's, you know, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to do whatever I want to take care of myself. So.
Yeah, definitely.
That's huge. It's been huge for me and Ramon, both of us, doing these, like just doing these live shows. It's like, it's crazy. I feel so much better after, because that isolation feels icky. And then it's like a hang. It's not a, there's nothing like being around people you like, but it's something, and you're talking and you're seeing new faces. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing, like how everybody has always been, like comedians have always shit on like YouTubers and shit like that, where it was like, it's just a different thing. And now you're being forced to do that thing. And now, so they're like, no, but I don't like it like this. And it's like, okay, but don't be mad then when people who are doing shit like this are the ones that are going to be working after this, you know, because that's the other thing is people are cooped up and they do want a fucking escape, and they do want anything that's even remotely close to being social. And so they're willing to, for it to be cheesy or lame or whatever the fuck it is to get that. Like, that's better than just being alone with a television or just being alone with your fucking family and them being the only people you've been able to communicate with for the last 3 months, you know?
Yeah, I think that comedians that are doing things online right now and figuring out different avenues are definitely going to have a leg up when everything reopens again, because there's going to be a lot of comedians that have just sat around for 3 or 4 months and didn't even do anything. And then there's people who are actually, even if it's a different muscle, it's still you're being creative and you're using your comedic muscles to do something, you know, that's going to keep you sharp and right, you know, when things open up again, you're going to be able to.
And that's the other thing too, is even if you don't have it in you to create, like, I think it's a great opportunity to learn something, you know. You know, I bet Duolingo's off the charts right now. People just like learning language or something like that, you know.
My mom's learning Spanish right now.
Hell yeah, dude. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think this is a great, if there was anything you were just like, fuck, if I had the time, now is that time. So
I've been baking bread like crazy. I've made probably like 50 loaves of bread. I'm one of those bread people.
Yeah, that's also very hacky, Ramon. I hate to break this to you, but and I blame Tom Papa. I do. I blame Tom. If Tom Papa hadn't been teaching everybody how to make fucking sourdough bread, it wouldn't just, my feed wouldn't be full of fucking dough, dude. It's just like
piece of shit.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've been tagging them in all my pictures too.
I'm on board. I think it's adorable, if I'm being completely honest. But it's just like, I'm like, what's the real motivation here? That at the end of this, if this actually becomes post-apocalyptic, we got plenty of bread to go around. Like, at least we can bake bread. We got plenty of bakers that know how to fucking pull it off. You know.
Well, technically, like, we're all controlled by our gut biome. All the bacteria in our gut is what controls us, and sourdough is bacteria. So I feel like somehow or another, the sourdough bacteria is orchestrating this whole coronavirus thing and figured out a way to really take over the world. I think that's what
that's a weird conspiracy theory there. Like, I've heard about the birds not being real, but now bread is real and it's sentient and it's organizing within all of our stomachs.
I had a lot of time to think about it. Trust me.
Birds aren't real.
That's all they're doing. When the dough's rising, they're just conspiring with each other, like all of the bacteria.
Yeah, big bread.
Yeah.
So so you're from Orlando originally. That's where you started comedy in the Orlando scene.
I did.
And that's where I met you, and I know you from. And then now you're in Los Angeles. At what point did you go from Orlando to Los Angeles? I know you were a road dog for many years too, right? You're kind of just going all over, nomad.
I started in Orlando and was there for like as far as stand-up goes, was there like 2.5, 3 years. And then I kind of just went out and like lived on the road. And that kind of happened like within by year 4, I was like on the road full time. And then I was there I was on the road for like 6 years. And then I lived in Chicago for 2. And then I've been out here for 2. So yeah, for like 6 years, I didn't really live anywhere. I was just me and my Saturn. It was pretty easy peasy. It was fun.
That's awesome. And I heard you on the Joey Diaz podcast like a year or so ago talking about becoming a door guy.
Yeah.
And then I guess for
Second
me,
door girl in history.
Nice.
that's awesome. But for me, like the idea of being a door guy at the comedy store was like, that seems like a dream job. But then the way he was talking about on the podcast is that you being a headliner, I guess there's like this idea that it's like a step
development
backwards.
program.
It's
I don't think it was, I mean, not necessarily a step backwards. It was just one of those things where I just had to be upfront with them and like, hey, I already do this for a living. So I'm just going to need to be able to go do this for a living. Cause going from like your hour being worth like $500, or you know what I mean? Or whatever, like, getting $1,500 a week to going to working for $12 an hour or whatever the fucking minimum wage is here. It's just like you gotta you gotta work with me, dude. Like I'm already living my dream or whatever the fucking kids call it. And and the story has been incredible to me. So it was really great. And there's actually like a lot of really good other like headlining comedians that are now door guys too. So it was like I think I was maybe one of the earlier ons that were like, fucking why wouldn't I be part of history?
Yeah, and I don't mean like a step backwards as like a negative. I mean, I figure like when people think of like a door guy, I don't necessarily think of a headliner. As a fan of comedy and a fan of the Comedy Store and everything, I could see that it's like, whoa, that's like a fucking cool job to have, And I think it's I don't know. I think I'm jealous. I think it's the coolest, one of the coolest jobs to have.
It is a pretty dope gig.
It's funny that you just called it a step back, and then you're like, I think it's the coolest thing ever.
No, I didn't mean. I'm not calling it a step back. I'm saying that there could be this perception that as a headliner, taking a door guy.
And I've because I asked a lot of people about it before I said yes, and I did have people that were like, I think you're above that or whatever. But for me, it was like, why would I love the Comedy Store and everything it stands for, and I love that it's a safe place for comedians, and there isn't a comedy club in the world that's like the Comedy Store, and so to be part of Comedy Store history, like why wouldn't I say yes? Like it just didn't make sense. No, I'm okay. Thank you. I know this is the mecca of comedy, but I'm okay. I'm gonna go work the serum for less than I'm worth. Like it doesn't make sense. So
yeah,
of course I'm gonna be part of it. And like why wouldn't I want to be around? Like one of the things I always try to instill in younger comedians is it's not just doing stand up. Like being around people who are fucking incredible at it, and and seeing all the different kinds. That's the other great thing about it, is you get to see all of the different kinds of stand up all in kind of one place. And that's something that I always tip my hat off for Adam Egget being the talent coordinator there, where he's the kid's got good taste, and so seeing all of these really great people work on stuff, it not only humanizes like people who are huge in stand up, it makes what they're doing the same, you know what I mean? It kind of just brings people you would put on a comedic pedestal, like, oh, you're fucking around. I do that, and and I think that's also something that's very important when you're growing and learning. And even still to me now, like I'm still constantly inspired by people. Like Owen Smith is probably one of my favorites at the Comedy Store. I absolutely adore the way that he writes. And I think it's because it's so different from me. Like I'm very high energy, I'm fast, I'm all that stuff. I run over a lot of my punchlines, and he's just like slow and controlled and takes these pauses, and like every single facial expression is like on purpose, and it's just fucking incredible, and so yeah, why wouldn't I want to drown myself in people who are more talented than me or more experienced than me? Because I'm gonna, it's the whole big fish in a small pond. You're only gonna get as big as the pond is, and this is the fucking ocean, so it feels like.
If comedy's like working out, when you started working there, do you feel like you started taking steroids pretty much? Like did you notice that you're maybe developing bits faster or like growing stronger, like more quick there? Like
I think it just kind of raised the stakes on even if I had a new idea, it had to be good, or it had to be a little bit further along in order for me to fuck with it. And it was also just one of those places. Well, now I'm comfortable enough there. I'll throw some shit out, you know, and see what happens. And that's it. But you know, it's just because I'm comfortable. That's my home now. You know, that is my gym. And like those, when you work like working there, being a door guy, you get guaranteed spots. You get like development spots, and you get cold open spots. So if there's going to be a lineup of like 23 comics, you're the first one. You get 5 minutes. You go up cold. And so that's been something where it's like, I know within a minute and a half, so I don't waste my other, you know, 3.5 minutes. I have to get everybody, I have to get a group of individuals to be an audience immediately and get them to be on board with the idea of stand-up comedy and get them to be interested in me considering I'm not famous. You know what I mean?
I've seen some of the lineups that you were on when the Comedy Store posts them on Instagram. Yeah. And I'm like, Jesus, like I remember like meeting Carmen Morales at the Inlet Wines in Sebastian like 8 years ago. And now she's on this really lineup with like,
I loved Inlet Wines because I remember I was like half in the bag because I never drank wine, and I did that night, and I did like 54 minutes, 3 of which were actual jokes before. And I remember going, God damn, like I feel like a goddamn rock star. Like I don't shit on Inlet Wines. So that was a really good fun gig.
That was a fun room. That was a good room. I think it was you and Ian Gutowski that night, I believe. But
that was a different. I was talking about the one that I had lines.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
It was one of those ones where there was just kind of like some magical planets aligning where I just ended up riffing almost an entire hour. I think I riffed a bit about how like drunk white bitches are the molesters that nobody ever wants to talk about, and some shit I never said again. I never did it. I said it on stage and I never said it again. And it was just one of those really magic moments. You ever have like a show like that where it's just like, who is it? Where did this come from? Where has this bitch been writing without me?
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely significantly different when you're doing Comedy Chaos and it's Sam Tripoli and Joey Diaz and Annie Letterman and fucking all of these like store people that crush on a regular basis, and then you have to be the one that opens it. And I appreciate Adam for, you know, kind of throwing me into that and then being confident in my ability to do that. You know, like there's been a lot of times where he's just like, he'll be just talking. He's like, introduce me as his ringer because he knows I'm going to bring it every single time. And because I think it's also about, I try so hard because what we do is so narcissistic. I try so hard to take the self out of it. So it's like when I do shows like that, I'm not thinking about my set. I'm thinking about the show as a whole. You know, so if I know the next person coming up is real clean or, you know, whatever the case, if they're way more subtle, like I might pull back or whatever, just because I just want the show itself to be good. And I care more about that than I care about my individual set because I'm already confident in my abilities to be funny. Right. You know, I already know I got good bits. I know how to make an audience laugh. So now I'd want, and for those cold open spots, like it's not about me, it's about the show, you know? And then you have development spots where it's like, that's where I get to go and like, you know, I'll go on before roast battle and I'm doing a bit that I've never done before and I'll throw that shit out there and see how it works, you know, because that's the point of those sets.
Do you think since you've become a comedian in general that you've become more empathic or you could feel like, I feel like comedians are people who, or especially the ones who are excelling like yourself or in these extraordinary positions in comedy, are able to feel and read a room in a way where I feel like I wonder if that translates into regular life where you're able to kind of feel vibes and energies from people more sensitively.
I think some people, I think if you try to, you can. I mean, I'm certain you've met plenty of oblivious comedians, you know, and, you know, it's like a weird combination of being delusional and self-loathing that comes into like a weird, and so, but for me, yeah, but I was going to be a shrink if I didn't do this, you know, like I went to school to be a shrink and then I found out you couldn't fix my dad. So then I was like, all right, well, I'll just do whatever I want. It turns out there's no fixing mental illness. And so that's always, I've just always took what I learned from that and just tried to always work on being a good person, you know? It was like, that was kind of the deal I made with myself. If I'm going to do this very, you know, self-serving job or commit my life to it, then I also have to compensate that with being, trying really hard to be a decent person, or, you know, and I think the kindness that has been displayed to me in stand up by other comedians, it's just one of those pay it forward things where it was like, and it's like, you know, so many couches have been open, like, so those 6 years I maybe got a hotel like 4 times, and that was just a fuck-in. Like, it was never, you know, the club would put you up, and if not, then other comedians would put you up. And when you've been shown that over and over again for years, then it's just like, I want to help too. I want to be able to, you know. So that's why it's like, sure, I like, these online shows are just an example of that, where it's like, yeah, I've asked really much more successful comedians than me to do this, to be nice. And they're taking a significant pay cut to do my silly little show because they know my heart's in the right place, and they're good people. And that's the other thing, is that the douchebags don't ever really get high enough that you ultimately have to deal with them as much. Like, there's plenty of egos that exist at the Comedy Store, but for the most part, everybody's fucking cool. You know, there'll be dynamics and people that don't get along, and just like any kind of family or any kind of friend circle. But ultimately, nobody's a real piece of shit. You know,
That's good.
Except for the ones that are, and then those people are usually outed, and then, you know, they don't get fucked with as much. So.
Yeah, I mean, I hear stories about what the Comedy Store was like 20 years ago, and how like it was a more volatile,
a lot less
and toxic
cocaine,
place.
unfortunately. There's just not as much coke as there used to be. It's a bummer. You know?
Is the Comedy Store as haunted as people say it is, or have you have any experiences?
I haven't, and you know, and I don't know if it is or not. Like, you know, there's, from it being Ciro's and like being mob run, and, you know, them having the tunnels underneath it that went across the street, that how they used to move bodies and stuff. Like, I personally don't, but when it's 3:00 in the morning and I'm closing the main room, I'll still say goodnight to everybody. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to, you know, I'm not trying to upset any ghosts that live there. I'll just be like, I hope you guys had a good night.
Good night, Sam Kinison.
You know,
night, Robin.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the other thing too, is I don't know how ghosts work, so I don't know if it's like comedians come to visit. You know what I mean? I thought if you were like a specter that was like locked in purgatory, you were like confined to a particular place, and, you know.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Kinnison didn't die there. Robin didn't die there. So it's like, I don't know if it's just like a like a dishwasher that worked at the store forever ago and saw some shit he didn't see, so the mom had to whack him, so he's just there. And it'd be funny if like he didn't even like stand up, you know what I mean? He just had a fucking job and he's just trapped at this place. That would be so cool. Like, if I was a ghost, I would love to party at the stand, you know, because then, of course, I could be like a petty ghost and like fuck with the lights with the comics that I didn't like performing. You know what I mean?
Or it's a comedian that's stuck as a middle act for eternity.
Yes. Yeah. So like, I wouldn't mind being a ghost at the Comedy Store, but I personally haven't had an experience yet. But there's just been too many comics that have for me to be like, no, it's not real. So, you know.
And what does it feel like, or do you not trying to overthink it or whatever? But right now, well, once everything, you know, right before COVID or whatever, is, from what I hear, is the best time, the most epic time to be in and around the Comedy Store, and to be working there and hitting the stage, and in the most historic time in comedy there. It must be
the most, but this is another boom for the store. Like, the store, if you would have gone to the store 7 to 10 years ago, when Tommy was the talent coordinator, they had show minimums, and there was like, it was mostly outside produced shows, and nobody was fucking coming, and, you know, there was it was a really bad time for the store. And I always attribute it to 3 different people. It was them unbanning Rogan, and because that whole thing, unbanning Rogan, Adam Egget being the talent coordinator, and Bretton Biddlecombe finally putting the Comedy Store on the fucking internet so people could know how cool it was and know about it and learn about it, and because like, as comedy kind of got big again over the last like 5 years, like with the growth of podcasting, more and more people became interested in comedians in general. So with that, like all of those things kind of all happening at the same time really created this like beautiful instance for the store to flourish, and it's doing so good, and I'm so fucking proud of it, and I'm so proud of everybody that's part of it, and the whole family's just fucking rad. It's kind of like being in a mob.
Yeah.
But we're not killing nobody. We just kill on stage, baby. That's it.
Oh,
That's what we do. Yeah.
That's that mob ghosts. That's those Ciro's ghosts that you're feeling.
Yeah.
With Adam Egan, does Norm Macdonald ever hang around? Do you ever get to have any experiences with Norm Macdonald?
I've seen Norm there a couple of times, but he didn't go up. He was just kind of hanging out.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're both pretty big fans of Norm. We got to see him last
He's
year.
all right.
We both got to shake his hand, so we're psyched about that. Yeah.
Nice.
I hugged him.
Yeah.
I hugged.
Okay, Jimmy hugged him. I got to shake his hand.
I feel like if I'm ever gonna be like a comedian that's gonna be around other comics that I admire, I have to stop hugging them.
Well, I definitely see if they're into it, because some people don't like to be touched, so you just gotta be.
I know. So
but
fucked up.
It is weird. That's one of the things I always make fun of Rogan is like, I was like, you're the only like male comedian that guys also stalk you. Like, it's so bizarre. Like, we have a couple of female comedians that we can't put on the marquee because they have stalkers.
Right.
And Rogan, anytime like Rogan's got a show, man, there's always at least one fucking dude that's just like staring at him, and I kind of like, all right, we got to move you away. This guy's creeping me out.
Oh my
like,
god!
You know what I mean?
He needs his own security now.
I mean, no, he's an MMA. Like that motherfucker. Yeah.
Who's he gonna find?
I remember him telling a story about there was a guy that was following him in the hotel room, and they ended up having to call security about that. And
yeah, but
like,
that's what's great about the store is there's a safe place for them. Like, we can get like comics of that stature have a place where they can go and not be bothered and just be a comic, because you do those guys doing those arena shows and theater shows and shit like that. Like, they also want to just be able to be a comedian and not a superstar, and that's kind of what the store provides. It's like it's the OG. Like, you're just you're still doing 15 minutes like everybody else, and there's something nice to that.
Do patrons do they respect comedian space and everything like that, or are they usually pretty
they're
good
not
about
allowed. There's places they're just not allowed to go. It's just for comics. It's just for regulars, and so like there's a filtration system. Like, it's usually you'll see them if they want to be seen.
Right.
And for the most part, people are pretty respectful because they're the cool people. Like, why would you want to upset the people that you think are
exactly?
So at the store specifically, it's kind of like how at the cellar, if you go in there, you don't go sit at that table unless you are welcome at that table. You don't go bother anybody because that's way cooler. You know what I mean? When they're in Des Moines and it's after a show and they're doing a meet and greet, that's when that time is appropriate.
Right. There's a time and place
because they're prepared for it. Yeah, sure.
Not when you're coming off the stage after doing an hour.
Yeah.
Is the secret comedian only bar at the Comedy Store? Is that as cool as I hear it to be?
I mean, it's a tiny little box of the bar in it that's got Comedy Store shit all over the walls. So yeah.
That does sound really cool, actually.
Then we got our sacred ground area where people can go and do their illicit substances. Yeah. That's not for it's definitely not for the general public. So it's nice. It's nice to have a place like that.
If this quarantine in California persists, I wish it would be cool if they would just even do shows at the Comedy Store Patreon, or like some sort of way where it's only streaming online somewhere where people still have to buy tickets, but then it's still at the Comedy Store, so they still are able to. Mm-hmm. But I guess they can't get drink sales.
Well, I mean, they did do a benefit. Like, they did the benefit show where they did three
Dave Chappelle
separate
and something.
three different hour blocks where, so they had
Joey
like
Diaz
St.
showed his
Dylan,
balls.
yeah, Joey Diaz showed his balls. And thank
Why
God
not?
too, because that got us like $87,000, so the store could, stand to stay there for a little bit longer. So it was very nice of him to show his balls.
That was cool of him.
For the
Very
greater
cool of him.
good, for the comedy store. He sacrifices so much for the store.
That's really cool of him.
But yeah, so that was cool. It was basically kind of like three different blocks of like almost like a podcasting, but because everybody was at home. But with the shelter in place, I don't think people are gonna go because I mean the store's not open. So yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to that, they'll figure something out.
Are you planning or on doing any shows in these states that are open, or are you overall just playing it safe and just going to abide by the California rules? Because I know that Texas is and Utah and even Florida. I mean, the Miami Improv opened up like 3 weeks ago, which is like yikes.
Yeah.
They're open, and the Side Splitters in Tampa. I mean, there's a lot of these comedy clubs are slowly starting to open.
Don't go to Miami.
Don't go to Miami.
Don't
Yeah,
go
I just saw that they had a huge spike too in
Really?
Miami. Yeah. It's just too, like I said, I'm gonna go by with the people, the doctors and the medical people. I'm gonna go by the
Scientists,
city.
yeah.
They know more about it than I do. I'm not gonna have my ego attached to it. I'll probably wait until I feel like I can't wait anymore, and then see if I can do them. But hopefully by then we'll have some shit figured out,
Mm-hmm. And you have your podcast in the meantime that you're doing.
I
too,
do.
right?
It's called No Sir, I Don't Like It. It's me, and I usually have a guest on, and we talk about shit we don't like. It's very very silly, because everybody dislikes things. So I have a never-ending well of comedians and a never-ending well of things that they don't like, and so that's fun. It's fun to produce that too.
And that's a Ren and Stimpy reference too, right? No, sir, I
It
don't like it.
is. Mm-hmm.
You a big
Yeah,
Ren and
Mr.
Stimpy
Boris.
fan?
I
growing
was,
up?
yeah. I still am, yeah.
I love Ren and Stimpy. That's probably where I learned like having a sense of humor. Probably was
Pretty much. I mean, just Nickelodeon in general was like my first, like Snick and all that, and like Roundhouse. And,
Roundhouse.
Yeah,
everyone forgets about Roundhouse.
Everybody forgets about Roundhouse. It's a very niche because I think it was only on for like a year or two. So that is a very specific age group of people that know about Roundhouse. But it was like all that, but it was like more underground. It was like the Mad TV if all that was SNL. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like in Living Color if it was meshed in with the Fly Girls somehow.
Yeah. If this set was all like made of trash and moved around, it was bizarre. But that was like one of those things. Like Ren and Stimpy was always on. Rocko's Modern Life. Like both of my parents worked, and they worked opposite shifts. So I was basically raised. For a while there, I was like raised by two single parents in the same household, in that they were never home at the same time. So it was, I watched a lot of television, a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark, like all that stuff. Alex Mack.
Alex Mack was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, dude. I was like, man, I want to be a puddle so bad.
A silver puddle.
I want to be a shape-shifting puddle, dude. That sounds cool. Yeah. And then like, I loved Pete and Pete. Oh, I loved Pete and Pete. I had a crush on the older brother.
That's a good one.
That's probably why I dated a few gingers in my time. Was probably because the Adventures of Pete.
Oh, good for you.
I saw a few years ago that Pete and Pete, the actors, both have a podcast together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it though. Have you heard it or?
I haven't heard it, but I saw that they were doing it as well.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Who knows how good it is though?
And then my absolute favorite was Salute Your Shorts was another one.
Oh God, that's a good one too.
Yes.
And Hey Dude was always on right after it. And so
I never really, I was kind of like always like on the fence on Hey Dude. I was like, I don't know if I like it or dislike it, but I'll watch it.
Yeah, that was when I watched Salute Your Shorts because I wanted to, and then I'd stay for Hey Dude because
because David the Gnome was next, and he had to.
I love David the Gnome. Fuck, man, I always want to ride on the back of a fox, dude. Fuck that guy. I want to.
Do you remember the Noozles?
That sounds familiar.
The Noozles are these little koala bear,
Yes.
Japanimation,
yes.
Australian
Big fan.
Japanimation. And
Because
they would
remember,
eat.
they used to do those they made after they made those graham cracker things, which had there was like koala, it was like koala.
Yummies.
Yes, they were called yummies, but they looked like the Noozles. It was like a koala on the outside of a crunchy cookie with some kind of
Like a
fucking
nougat
in the
inside
middle.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like a chocolatey, some chocolate shit on the inside.
But the Noozles was this trippy show where there were like these koala bears that also had access to another dimension where they would be like
Yes.
floating around, and there would be
Yeah,
like
and it's
these.
like, of course, millennials do a lot of drugs, dude. Look at the shit that we watch. Like, it was also so strange, you know? Like, Ren and Stimpy was so
It
gross,
was.
and like there was a lot. There was like there was a lot less protecting the children of what we were consuming. So, and I think, and then there was also like a lot of emotive shit. Like, why we're so like moody is like fucking My So-Called Life. The pilot episode of My So-Called Life, if you've never watched it, it's a Claire Danes show, like a coming of age television series. I think was on MTV. I don't remember where it was initially.
I think it was MTV.
Was it? Yeah. But like the but the pilot episode was like one of the main characters like gets almost raped and like they're underage drinking at a party and like all this other shit. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And it's like the whole series is like so like dark and heavy and all this stuff. And all these young kids are going through all of that where it was I don't know. I think I think a lot of the stuff that we watch kind of shaped why we are kind of the way that we are, which is why it's so hard for companies to market to us because the only thing they know are like the things that we've already liked, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why nostalgia is really big. That's the only way they get us. Because they don't know how to market to us.
Yeah. I can't believe Ren and Stimpy was a kid's show. That's like insane to me.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like an Adult Swim show now.
Especially because it was like they would do like these weird close-ups and then there would be like this beautifully painted disgusting image, you know, like it would just be like a close-up of Stimpy's like belly button and then you would see all the it was just always so unnecessarily gross but fun.
I know.
Oh, I love it though.
I always like low-key thought that they were a gay couple.
I think that's the rumor.
Yeah.
They
definitely
2004 or 2005 they tried to revamp Ren and Stimpy. I don't know if you remember, and I think they did it on maybe it was Adult Swim or Spike TV or something, whatever it was at the time. And it was like an adult version of Ren and Stimpy, and it didn't click. I don't think because
it's not the same.
It was they were too over the line rather than straddling the line.
I think the same thing kind of goes with like you need that structure sometimes. I think the same thing happens with like the dynamic between Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, and like Justin Roiland is like if I've watched some of his like really like old shit before he ever did Ren and Stimpy, Rick and Morty, and it's just fucking insanely over the line type shit. And then I think it takes some kind of there's something to constraining a really brilliant all over the place person where you just put them kind of in this little bit of a box, or just not even a box, but you just kind of give them the structure to function within that really kind of makes like if you want to be over the line and you can't, like how does that happen? I think the same kind of magic happens with South Park, you know?
Yeah. Or in church, like there's nothing like if you have all these rules in church, and if you ever have you ever had the church giggles? Like if you had to go to church as a kid and then like you hear something weird and you know you're not supposed to laugh, but then it just makes it even more funny because
even more
you
funny
know
because you're not supposed to laugh.
And then you just can't control yourself because of all the constraints and the confines. Yeah.
I feel that way. I think like a new television show that is like that is Big Mouth on Netflix, like the Nick Kroll show that's like all about kids going through puberty and shit, and it's gross but it's accurate. It's just like one of those like when you're a teen, like when you are a preteen to teenager, you are fucking disgusting, and it talks like it's a really fun, honest way of going about it. And like I know a lot of people that feel uncomfortable by that show because it is that way, but I was like, dude, think about when you were 13, like you were disgusting. Like, you know, I think everybody's had what's his name? Jake. Every boy specifically has been gross like Jake at least one time or another in their adolescence.
Which one's Jake?
He's the one that fucks the pillows.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
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 Oh, yeah.
Just
I
by the
love
way
that
you guys
show.
both answered, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, now we're getting
yeah.
nostalgic. Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, all right.
You
Ren and
just there's a
Stimpy, fucking
period
I
pillows.
missed that. I missed that tapestry pillow. She was really good to
Yeah.
me.
There's a period where you can't stop humping. Like it's just
Mhm.
it's almost like how a dog will just hump random people's legs.
Yeah.
It's that
Mhm.
same feeling. You just can't stop.
So you have the No Sir, I Don't Like It podcast, and you can get that
right.
everywhere on iTunes and Spotify and Stitcher and all that.
Listen
And
to
where can people find, like, how can people know when you're doing a live show?
like when things go back to normal.
No, like I'm sorry, like one of your Zoom live shows.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
digital
follow
live
me.
shows.
I always post them. I'm always posting about it. Go to carmenmorales.com for all of your Carmen Morales needs, or you could follow me on all the assorted social media. They're all the same. It's at the Funny Carmen, and I post about it all the time.
You got
the next one
TikTok?
I do have a TikTok.
Gotta get that air fryer on there.
No. I go back and forth. Like sometimes I'm high enough and I'm like, dude, I'll make a fucking TikTok. I don't give a shit. And then when I'm not high, I'm like, I can't. What am I doing? So I go back and forth with it, and as far as TikTok goes, but yeah. So it's at the Funny Carmen, Carmen, and yeah. Fucking follow me.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for doing the show.
Yes, thanks for
Thank
having
you,
me.
Carmen.
Great talking to you. I thought it was a
Great
great
meeting you.
conversation. And
yeah, sorry I bombarded it and ranted most of the time.
Oh
but,
no, this was
I
great.
gotta
It's
get it
fucking
out.
awesome.
We're two comedy nerds, and it's awesome conversation. We loved it. So
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
yeah.
Of course, Carmen.
Oh yeah, the next one. When does this come out? Is this come out
This
soon?
this is live now, and then I'll post
Perfect.
it. I'll post it up on the podcast feed tomorrow.
Sweet. So the next show that I'm doing is on June 6th. It's at Saturday. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. It'll be on Zoom. It's $5 if you would like to see it. It's free for any medical workers. So if you guys know any medical workers, please have them hit me up. I think the last one that I did, we ended up having like 30 or 40 nurses there, which is rad.
Were they working at the time? And they just had it.
Some of them were. Some of them were like low key. There was like a security guy that was at the hospital that was like, "Don't tell on me."
Fuck yeah.
So the next one I have is Mia Jackson and Judah Friedlander are gonna be on it, which is it's a super
Fuck yeah.
rad. It's gonna be
Awesome.
fun. Mhm.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well,
So
all right.
thanks
Well,
so much for
stay
having me on.
safe out there, and we'll keep tabs on you. We'll stalk your comedy career, and
For
Thank
sure. Yeah, thanks,
That's all I
Carmen.
can ask for. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Namaste and Hare Krishna.
You too.
All
This
right.
namaste. What does namaste mean?